Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I'm sorry. We usually bring it in all cheery, and I was trying to be like Katie today on our Voxer chat. She's all, and that's all the news, kids. And I was like, that was funny. I like you, Katie. So welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I am Danielle White, the creator of the Natural Meter Row Hair Extension System, and this is my lead trainer and co-host, Ani Rivera. And yeah, if you missed these shenanigans, I'm hoping that my editor puts some of them inside of this video where...
Oh, for sure he will. He's
where Ani, we've decided she's Gollum.
You should see the fucking picture that Kelman sent me the other day. He goes, I love this. It looks like you're trying to dominate the world. I'm like, I look like a weird cartoon.
Which one, on the BMS again?
No, I would never post this. How fucking dare you?
I don't know. You posted one where you were like...
Do you know I choose those?
I'm sure you do.
I choose a screen. I'm like, which one looks the weirdest? That would seem more interesting. No, this fucking asshole sent me this. I'm like, what was I even doing?
Wait. What character is that? What is that? My little precious. No?
I'm Gollum.
Thank you, Kelman. No. Thank you. Gollum. I work with Gollum. Please put this somewhere in the outtakes. I work with Gollum.
Okay, well, I work with Mr. Burns over here, so...
We were trying to decide what characters that we best represent. And
here's what happened.
It's not pretty.
Our editor, Kelman, Sam, is his actual name, but I've never called him that in my life. Kelman is amazing, and there's so many shenanigans that happen behind the scenes between Danielle and I, between actual filming for the Academy, filming for all of our funnels, recording for the podcast. Sometimes he'll take a fucking screenshot and be like, look at your face. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what was I talking about?
He's laughing at like 11 p.m. at night, and he's like, this is so good.
He's super high going, this is going to be the best one ever. I'm kidding. I don't know if he just drugs. It's just joking.
My favorite was the slow-mo from the... Yeah, that was good.
I still to this day get messages about that because it's so ridiculous.
I just watch it sometimes to get a good laugh. I have this file saved on my phone that's like funny random videos. Like,
do you really?
Yeah, it's shenanigans. I mean, I'm not going to say what goes on in the secret file, but it's funny.
Dear.
It's funny stuff. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Ma'am, keep that to yourself. This is a family, almost friendly podcast.
Yes. You know what? Okay, I have a serious thing. I have a serious challenge for myself. I'm not going to say the F word one time this entire podcast.
Oh, I already messed it up.
You did? No, you can say it. I have a challenge for myself because not that I care. I'm not triggered by words, but sometimes I feel like I'm like so girly and I feel like I'm a classy lady. And then sometimes I'm like, mother effer. And I'm like, so my goal.
But that's why I like you so much.
Really?
I don't know if it's going to be you, Danielle, or Danielle's balls.
Danielle's balls.
One or the other.
Okay, so I can't promise, but I'm going to try really hard to not say the F word this entire episode. I can't promise that.
It's fascinating knowing your husband, I think is what it is.
I know, I blame Garrett because...
Do you know, one of my clients, Amber, I think you know who she is. Her daughter is 4 or 5. Her favorite word is motherfucker. Oh. She'll go up to dad and be like, love you, motherfucker, and then walk away. And Amber is like, don't.
I love, do you know what I love is when like 2-year-olds use swear words, but like out of term. They're like, you're a shitball sucker or something. Like you're like, that doesn't even make sense. You want me to eat shit cake for breakfast? I don't know what you're saying.
I'll leave the former. I'll take the latter though.
Yeah.
Do you know what I love when it's birds? When they birds like so my mom, one of her aunts actually used to have a parrot that would talk.
Okay.
Every time you'd walk in the house, it'd go, you're really ugly. But fun thing is, it was in Spanish. It didn't speak English, but just speak Spanish.
I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but
we won't encourage it here. But 3.5 minutes of shenanigans. I like it. We're on it today.
Yeah. So we usually start off the show trying to share some kind of value and content with you guys about what's going on. We're both hairdressers, and yeah, like first I want to talk about the latest news, which is
California has opened up salons.
At least Orange County.
Yeah.
I don't think LA has. Have they?
LA is one of like the 2 counties that has not.
Because LA's dirty, but it's all LA's just
and I feel
big.
So bummed because one of our trainees is in LA and she's like, guys, I'm so happy for your opening. She's like, don't mind me, I'll just be doing nothing still. And I'm like, come work at DKW.
Man,
it's fine.
We'll lease you a chair.
You'll love
Actually,
it.
we don't have any space, but
we literally don't.
We don't. But Yes.
It's exciting though.
Yeah.
We've been waiting and
I popped in the salon today and it was officially open and I'm like, everyone's in their masks and our cute little receptionist, Jessie, like she's always smiling. You know how most people, you can't tell if they're smiling behind a mask? I was like, you can even tell you're smiling behind a mask. Like
her eyeball smile.
Yeah, she's like, I was like, oh, like I feel so welcomed already. Like I don't know what you're saying, but
and now I'm like, I'm just worried because I have resting bitch face naturally. So I'm like, I'm like, do I have to smile for the smile to come across? Or can I just squint my eyes at people? If I just squint.
I went, this is funny. I went to a little surf shop here locally and all the cute little 20-year-olds that were working, they were all wearing masks and I'm like paying and I was like, somebody said something and I was like, I just was like staring at the girl and she's like, all of a sudden starts looking around and I was like, I don't know, were you saying something to me? She goes, no. And I'm like, were you saying, and finally I was like, you guys all have masks on. I don't know who's talking. And are you helping them? Are you helping me? Like it was funny. And I was like, sorry, I don't know.
The worst thing I did is I was at the grocery store and an employee was telling me to stop smelling flowers, but I couldn't hear her. So I got way too close. I'm like, what'd you say? And she backed up like 4 feet and she's like, ma'am, you can't smell the flowers. I was like,
you can't smell the flowers?
She said I could get my coronavirus germs on it. I'm like, I don't have a coronavirus.
No, what if I lick the flowers? Is that awkward in a grocery store? Okay, so when I go to the grocery store, I'm always like, I have a case of water, and they're like, what? And so I always move it down. Is that not acceptable? Like,
no,
I have a case of water.
It totally defeats the purpose.
Really? I do it quick though. I'm like, I have a case of water.
I would just yell through the mask, I have a case of water.
Oh, so I'm really like, then I defeated the purpose of a mask. Cool.
Yeah, you're kind of an asshole.
I was joking around today too, and I was like, my whole team was like, hey, we can't wear, or I can't breathe in my mask. And I go, you guys, you just wear your mask slightly below your nose and then you can breathe just fine. I'm just kidding.
Look,
I don't do that.
One more joke before I move on.
Okay.
There is a TikTok series going on of a guy who owns a convenience store and a woman came in and cut out the entire nose and mouth of her mask. All of it. And he's like, wow, ma'am, where'd you get your mask? And she's like, I had to do it myself because, I can't breathe. She ended up seeing the video on TikTok and came back in, held it up, and she's like, I don't appreciate this. And he was like, yeah, but it worked because you didn't cut your mask this time. She's like, stop recording me. He goes, I'm not going to do that. She's like, I want the manager of the store. He's like, hi, I'm the manager. She's like, I want your supervisor. He's like, still the supervisor. She's like, I want the owner. He goes, all right, I'll get the owner. Did one spin, and he's like, hi, I'm the owner. Nice to meet you.
Jesus.
I was crying. She's come back 3 times now.
Oh,
the last one, she's like, my boyfriend's going to come. He's like, was he going to be wearing a mask? I was crying.
Oh,
it's my favorite series.
That's
Guys,
funny.
don't
I'm going to need you to forward that to me. I thought about poking holes, but then you were like, you can't do that. And I was like, but why?
Germs.
I get it. So,
but you know what? It's something super interesting happened to one of our students the other day, actually. A client, and this is anyone who is in any kind of service industry, especially with the general public, like, you get clients like this. So obviously we do hair extensions, and this client is quirkier, I'm going to say. She's an oddball, all right. And she went home and loved her hair, and then through quarantine, she was like, I got to take it out. So she took it out, but then she ended up like cutting some of her hair, and then the girl put it back, the stylist put it back in, and then the girl...
Is this our salon?
Oh, hell no, it's not our salon.
Okay, I was like, why didn't I hear about this?
No,
okay.
one of our students.
Okay.
Oh, hell no, not us.
Okay.
We don't deal with these shenanigans. And then the girl put them back in, and then the lady was like super happy, and then she went home and started picking at them, and then took some more out. And now the poor student was like, I don't know what to do. She's like, guys, I think she might actually be some kind of like schizophrenic or bipolar. Like there's something actually wrong with her because there's a lot of other things that have happened. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I feel bad. She's like, because she does love her hair, but she keeps taking them in and out and in and out, and now like wrecking her own hair. And she's like, but then on top of it, like, I want the money, but I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
And so I end up having a conversation with her, and I'm like, we need to talk about the rules of engagement.
Right. Ooh. Ooh.
Rules. Guys. And it's
like this for every business. It's not just like for hairdressers, but hairdressers are so guilty of like letting clients like dictate Karen's coming in.
Yes. And that's the thing you have to realize is when I say rules of engagement, it's almost not societal norms that we're looking at, like being polite. It's about more than that of when you come to my business, and this is a really good way I put it, from owner to manager. So from you to Crystal, there are certain rules of engagement.
Right.
From Crystal to us as stylists, very certain rules of engagement. From stylist to client, rules of engagement. From stylist to stylist, even with me, because I'm friends with people at the salon.
It's like protocol.
Yes. And it's in a matter of rules, protocol, respect. Like there's so many things.
Right.
Like artists they get so mad. They're like, I hate this client. Always comes in on a Saturday. Hold up. Wait a minute, though.
But you offered her that spot.
You can only be mad at yourself. Yeah. You literally offered it to her and let her take it.
I think that one of the biggest problems in our industry is in the beginning when we're building. And I have moved. Did you know I've worked in probably let's see, hold on, let me count. I don't want to count. I probably worked in like 12 different salons. Maybe 13.
4.
Maybe, well, let's see. I've worked in, at least 4.
3.
I've worked in
You're
2.
my 4th and my last.
I was like,
I'm never leaving.
what are you trying to say? But anyways, I've worked in like a shit ton of salons, and I think, and it's not like I just like moved, like I kept moving from state to state because Garrett couldn't decide what he wanted to be when he grew up. So, but also I was like, fun, let's move. So I would have to figure out how to like rebuild my clientele like every time I moved. Yeah. And what happens is like when you're hungry, you're like, I'll work Saturdays, I'll work Sundays, you're just
I'll work
like
till midnight, 2 a.m. Okay.
Literally, you're like, what works good for you? Like we're guilty of like, what day and time is the best for you? And they're like, well, I work every day till 7. Can you do a 7:30 on a Friday night? And you're like, absolutely.
That's my favorite appointment.
So then what happens is then you start to fill up, and you've always given Karen that 7:30 Friday night spot, and she works and she can't do any other spot, or can she?
And that's the thing. And I even told this artist, when we were having this discussion, I told her, I said, here's the deal. You have no clear set rules of engagement for your salon. You're letting your client, you're allowing this.
Right.
The client has already done this to you twice. You haven't put your foot down ever and said, this is now unacceptable. So I told her, here's what you do. You need to have a very, very clear conversation with your client of, hey, this is what's been happening. This is the damage that you have done to your hair. And with that, if you continue to do this, I can no longer service you at the salon. If you need a break from your extensions, I completely understand. I will happily take them out for you. We don't even charge for it. But cutting out your own hair is not going to be acceptable. And I told her, I said, this is nothing personal. Honestly, whether she has something mentally unstable or not, it's not even about that. It's about your business.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting something in to protect your business,
then, and you know what's sad about that? Because I'll have clients sit in my chair and they literally get there and I'm like, how did they get in this situation? How? And I'm like, no one told them no. There was nobody gave them rules of engagement. Mm-hmm. And sure, they might be a little bit like weird and tweaky and pick and pack. I'm not like very, but I have like weird quirks about me.
You're a picker.
I'm a picker, but it's also like my weirdness is kind of like what makes me successful in a lot of things, right?
Yes.
So I own my weirdness, right? And I know how to like reel in the weirdness when I need to, so I don't seem like a weirdo. So, but what I'm saying is like when I get clients in my chair where I'm like, how did this happen? Is it the client's fault? Because everybody wants to blame. I just keep saying Karen. Karen is like my 13-year-old daughter is like, Mom, don't be a Karen. Karen's like the random.
It's like a thing now.
It's a thing. Okay, so I'm just like, if people don't know what a Karen is, Karen's just like Karen. It's just like a made up name.
If you're trying to call our manager, you're probably Karen.
Yeah. Like I don't know if they're like, I need to see your manager and I got these coupons and I got whatever. You're a Karen. Don't be a Karen. So that's when I say that, that's what I'm referring to. So anyways, I just feel like if stylists, I'm like, this person's like jumping loops because nobody has rules of engagement. Nobody was like, hey, I care enough about you as an individual and I don't really care if you come to me, but I really want you to know your hair has this and this and this. Because what happens, and I've experienced this, is I'm like the last one on that person's list where I do their hair one time. Ooh, there's been a couple times actually. Or I do their hair and I'm going in sweating doing their hair. I'm like this is not from me. Like they've been bouncing around. They're fucking Karen. Like what they're like.
Oh, you said the F word.
No, damn it. Okay, sorry. Damn it. I almost made it. Okay, sorry.
No, we're close.
I'm not gonna. I'm only gonna say it one time this show. So. Moving on. But you know what I mean when you're like, kind of like sweaty and you don't have that conversation because you're like, but I took him, but I can't say no to him.
Because it's the client that comes in and they go, nobody's ever been able to do my hair right. They always mess it up. And you're already like, oh, damn, like this is.
And you're trying to overcompensate. You're like, not me. I do this all the time.
Yes. And it's so bad. And you know what's so interesting? I know we're sitting here talking about stylist to client, but I've actually experienced this on a personal/professional level when you first hired me on. When I first became a trainer.
I was Karen?
No, you were never Karen.
I was a Karen?
No, it says no, you're not. You're only in it because you hired me. But no, there was a student that we had started inside of BMS together. And she was one of the ones that, hey, she's a good person. Like she's whatever, like it is what it is. But she really wanted my spot is what it was. She wanted to be hired, but I was hired first. And from there, that's when we were really starting to build out Mastermind and putting more like structure in place. And I had put like one rule in place, which was like, don't just give out formulas, like have people try to figure it out, like work through it. Because if I'm like, Danielle, use this, you're going to forget it in 20 minutes. If you're like, wait, why do we, you'll understand and retain that information more. That day she broke my one rule and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I see what's happening. We're friends. And now that there's also a very hard professional line drawn, she didn't know where to go. So I called her up and I said, we need to have a talk. Here's what I'm experiencing. You are my friend and we've been friends for a year now. And I totally understand that. But inside of a professional capacity, here inside of BMS and NBR and Mastermind, I am no longer your friend.
It's respecting.
Yes. And I told her, I said, I'm your trainer and I'm your coach. I can understand this might be hard for you to hear right now, but here's what I need to know. If you cannot respect me as your trainer and as your coach while remaining friends with me, that's okay.
Right.
This is the day our friendship ends. And to me, it was that crystal clear. It was a hard line for me.
Right.
I had worked way too fucking hard for my position to let it be wrecked by someone else.
Well, she probably had seen you for who you were, 3, 2, 1 year. What doesn't matter. She had seen you. The path of growth that you were on at the time and the position that I gave you, because she was disrespecting you, she was disrespecting me. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
and guess what?
No.
We were never friends again.
Oh.
Yeah. And hey, it's a sad thing. We were really close. We flew across the country to one of our mutual friends' weddings. We were close,
But team players respect the process. And if you're like, hey, here's my rules, and they see the bigger vision, they're like, okay. And they can almost reel in the ego a little bit, and they're like, I see the vision, I want to be a part of it. And then what's cool about that, they rise with you. And it's not then you can be in this place where you're like, oh, good. You're rooting for them. You're like, good job.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's even let's take Crystal, our salon manager, for example. I've been here longer than she has. I've been here longer than everybody. But it doesn't matter. The rules of engagement are, regardless of lead trainer, director of whatever, the minute I walk through those doors at the salon, I am a stylist. There is no special title to me. There's no special privileges. I am an artist just like everybody else. And Crystal is my boss.
I would say even too for myself as the owner and everything is if I'm if I tell my artist, oh, don't listen to Ani, I can't undercut you. And same with Crystal. I can't be like, oh, I know Crystal's the manager, but just come to me. No, I have to be whatever. It's almost like parenting in a way. I'm like, whatever Crystal says goes. Even if I disagree with it, then later I'm like, Crystal, I don't agree with that. Or I'm like, Ani, there's times I used to show up in classes and I'd be like, Ani would be teaching and I'd be like, oh no, don't do it that way, do it this way. And later she'd come to me after and she's like, do you know that fucks me as a trainer? I said it again. It's a 3-strike rule for this podcast particularly. So, but do you remember, I remember, and you're like, no, you're screwing me. And I was like, I am. And I didn't even notice I was doing it. And so I had to make a conscious effort. I'm like, I made her lead trainer. I put her in charge of classes. So I've got to let her show up that way in front of students. And if I disagree about it, we can talk about it in person and we can figure it out where it works. You know what I mean?
And something Garrett had always told me, because that was a big fear, is legitimately really wrecking something in class. It's terrifying. And anyone who's ever taught a class or been in front of people, you know how utterly terrifying it is. And Garrett always told me, Ani, there is nothing in the world, nothing you can do that I cannot come behind and fix, and I will never throw you under the bus. If you fuck it up, I'm gonna take you off stage and I'll talk to you about it, but I will never I'll never take away your power in front of people.
Yeah, you don't.
And let me tell you, I've had my ass handed to me a few times.
And I never saw that. I never saw when he was kind of training you behind the you would come out, dry your tears, and I was like, but I knew it was fierce. I was like, that was a fierce kick. That was a fierce kick.
It was an ass beating, and you know what? But yeah, he was right. He never in front of student or staff was like, what the never. No. He was never like, what is your problem?
It almost makes it would make you look dumb, it would make him look dumb.
You guys hired me.
There's no but I have to go back to the story of the client where talking about how she if you have that client where you feel like you're saving them, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens in my career, like I said, I've done that multiple times, and I'm like, oh, I really want it for you, and I didn't communicate with my client my rules of engagement at my salon, what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And then I would do their hair, and then I would be surprised when they came back and they'd be like, this didn't work and you ruined my hair. And I was like, hold up. Your hair, the condition. So now when I have a client, and what happened is I started seeing members of my staff that no longer work for me anymore. Mm-hmm. I remember it was 2 years ago, maybe last year. I can't remember. It's kind of
10 years.
It's been a blurry year. But I remember I had to kind of come in as the owner at the time, and I was looking at a girl. Everyone's like, she's crazy. She's crazy. And I looked up and I looked in her hair and I go, number one, too much hair in here. Number two, the minute she sat down in my chair, I would have said, hey, hey, here's what I'm willing to do. Here's what I'm not willing to do. Put this much hair in, not willing to do. I would also call the client out, not in a bad way, not in a mean way, not in a friendly way, but say, hi, your hair has so much damage and so much hair missing. There's not a lot I can do. I need you to understand this is not for me. I have never done your hair. I would love to help you, but these are the rules of engagement. Because then they're not like, you ruined my hair. You know what I mean? They have to take accountability for where they're at.
Like this.
Yes. So,
and even something like relating it also to clients, I won't say who this client of yours was, but I think you'll recognize her by the story. There was a client, I have to laugh, who came to DKW very wealthy. Like her husband built a thing and she was like burning money. She had so much money.
So much anxiety.
And she was so rude to Danielle. Like I remember.
I'm pretty good at like not like just I'm like, I don't care. I'm
dude,
like,
you're chill.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll just do your hair. I'll just make it look pretty. I don't care.
But she was such a rag, and I'll say, like, she was just such a bitch. And she'd be like, I need to be out in an hour and a half. Danielle's like, it's actually going to take 3 hours to do your hair, 2.5 if we're lucky, but we need to start. And she was so rude every time. And guys, I'm not talking like she has a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands or like low millions.
No, like super ridiculous.
We're talking high millions.
Super ridiculous.
Oh yeah, like stupid money. Like stupid money. Danielle fired her.
She just
because people have to understand it's not about the money. It's about the rules of engagement.
Couldn't do it.
Here, the rules to be at DKW as a client, you cannot disrespect staff. You must be on time. You cannot pay with check or bounce out of your bill. I can't believe I even have to say these ridiculous things.
But it happens.
But we say it because we've experienced a place where someone was like, I'll write you a check. And then the damn check bounces and we're like, did this bitch just bounce out on a $3,000 bill?
Yeah.
Like,
and everybody has, I hate to say that, but if you're a stylist and you're listening to this podcast, everybody has been in their career, I don't care who you are, at some point where you're like, you want to give them a discount because they're like, because you want it for them. You're like, you really need a new piece of hair or you really need that toner. And they're like, no, I can't. I don't want it. No, they're just waiting for you to give it to them for free because you did it in the past.
Yeah.
So then you end up giving them a piece of hair. You end up giving them a toner. You end up getting them this and that. And then somewhere along the line, you're like, I'm done. And then you're like, hey, you got to pay me for this. And they're like, oh, I can't. And then all of a sudden you just decide to change your rules of engagement with your clients. And the clients are like, this isn't fair. And that's can be scary. And so what you have to do, instead of being like, well, screw you, Susan, I'm not going to give you a toner. You have to say, hey, in the past, I wasn't charging you for a toner. These are my new prices. You have to get out of your like emotional state about it and go in very logical and tell them, these are the rules of engagement. These are the pricings. This is my price increase. This is what I'm charging you. Then it's like pretty black and white. And you're like, hey, you don't want it? Great. And I always tell my artists even now, they're like, Danielle, how do you upsell? I go, I don't upsell. They're like,
this is what you need.
And they're like, everybody that comes in, I'm like, because I'm not trying to bullshit them. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I assess the hair. I look at the hair and I'm like, this is really bad. This is 4 months old. You knew coming to my salon that this hair only lasts, or say it's 6 months old. Like you knew coming in the salon, this hair only lasts 4 months old. You're 2 months past this. So here's what I'm going to recommend. I would recommend that you not pay me for a service if you don't get new hair. But I'm not like this aggressive. I'm sweet and I'm very friendly. I'm like, hey, here's what I think you should do. I'm like, do you want to do it? And I just look at him like, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it?
What are you going to do
I'm
today?
like, this is my recommendation as a professional. I'm like, I think this would look the best. Like, it's up to you. I always put, I pay now option A and option B. And I'm like, it's up to you. I feel like if you're going to pay this much to tighten and color, that it's going to look so much better if you do this. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, perfect. I'm not trying to upsell you, but I have to give you my professional opinion as an artist.
And I know that especially when it comes to price increases, like, do you know, I don't know how, if you've been in, so we have a private network for all of our Academy students. And one girl, she had messaged me and the whole story started off with, so I thought you and Danielle were full of shit for a while and didn't know anything.
Aww.
And I'm like, this is going to be a really interesting message. Let's see where it goes. She's like, I've been working every single day. Was it 2 or 3 weeks? It was like a solid amount of time. She goes 12-hour days. And she's like, you guys are right. I can't do this. She's like, I'm exhausted. I have no time for my family. I haven't done da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She's like, I have too many clients. I don't know what to do. She's like, help me. I was like, okay. I'm seeing 2 big problems. What are the 2 big problems you think you have? She's like, my prices are too low and I'm working too many days. I'm like, 100%. Now, what is one step you could take to rectifying both of those situations? She's like, raise my prices and set a new schedule. I'm like, beautiful.
Isn't that nuts?
And look how easy it is. People think everything is like a 15-step plan, but I told her, I go, the pain that you're in today, you remember that shit, because I can guarantee you will never want to be exhausted again. But she's like, I was like, Danielle and Anianne don't know anything. I know better than BMS. And she's like, you guys are right. This is the worst.
I think too, people look at where I'm at in my life and they're like, and I'm pretty young, but I also started when I was 18. Like I'm 37. I started doing hair when I was 18. Like I was like married by the time I was 20. So I feel like I'm like young, but I'm kind of an old soul and I've experienced a lot in life, right? So, but I think because I look young, people are just like, she doesn't know. And I'm like, yeah. Okay.
I've already done that.
I got 3 kids, and let me tell you about my life experience. And so I think it's funny because I used to be in that situation where I remember driving home at 8:30 at night when my 2 little babies were young, like exhausted and crying, literally crying. I think I had a Starbucks all day, pulled in my driveway, cried for another 5 minutes while I finished responding to clients crying, dried my fucking tears, went in, checked on my husband, checked on my kids, went to bed. People might not see that side of me, but I can promise you that I didn't get to where I'm at today without experiencing what you guys have experienced. And so it's the simplest things that we have to change, and somebody has to give us permission to change that. And so it's so cool because you can look at her and say, what do you see? And oftentimes we know, but we need somebody to give us permission.
Yes.
And Garrett's been really big in my life, and I've probably been big in his life in the same way of we give each other permission in that way. And when you give somebody permission, you give them permission to rise as an individual and to set your own rules of engagement.
And that's the thing. People are so stressed about it, or it seems so out of the norm. Like, there's no way that actually works.
Yeah.
But it's honestly just clear communication. And that goes for every
I think
relationship.
it's fear of failure. Like when somebody's like, there's no way that can work.
Yeah, well, you're already failing. With all due respect,
exactly.
your life already
Yes.
sucks. You think you're making
Yes.
a ton of money, but you're not. Even if you are, you have no time to spend that money.
Yes.
You don't have any days off. You haven't been on a vacation. Look, if you can't remember your last vacation, you already have a problem. Like,
Right.
that's an issue. And so all of a sudden, you think you're making great money, and you either are or you aren't. If you aren't, you're poor and you're exhausted, so that sucks. Or you're making great money, but you have no time to spend it. You have no time with your family. You have no time with your friends. You have no vacations. You go home, and on your off day, you sleep. What kind of life is that?
And you know what's so crazy? Even people that are probably really successful might have similar situations where they're like, so there's this element of pain to wherever you're at in life. And I would say, even I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, but like no matter what level I'm at, it's like there's moments of happiness in there, right?
Yes.
Right? Otherwise, we'd like, there's no way. If it was
Not
always doom
everything
and
is
gloom,
miserable all the time.
then you would just like literally be so hard to function. But there's these moments of pain that push us to greatness. And you have to understand that about yourself. Now I'm at a point where I'm like, ooh, that's a dagger. Why is that a moment of pain, and how can I rise above this? And I always go into this place where, well, I don't like where I'm at in this certain area of my life. So what do I have to lose? And when I flip that switch, I'm kind of like, all right, let's do this. And I can logically look at a situation to set myself up to win.
And I think even inside of that, what we tend to do, I feel, or what I've seen with a lot of artists, and I feel this is the one thing I've stayed so far away from doing, is once you're almost past that pain point, a lot of people like to box it up and be like, well, that was the past.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like it's like a little like cart that I carry with me, not in like a baggage kind of way, but always to remind myself like,
right,
this is
where you came from.
This is where I came from. This is the shit I overcame.
Right.
This is how terrible it felt. This is how upset I was. This is the emotional upheaval I had. And I can do that across the board in my professional life. I can do, Lord knows I can do it in my personal life. Like across the board, I can remember everything and how deeply and terrible it felt. And also the lessons I learned and what I did to overcome it.
Right.
And that then keeps me from making the same mistakes again and again and again and again, because it's
a reminder. And you're like, okay, I don't want to repeat that. You know what I mean? And so you kind of understand like your strengths and what you got out of it and where you're at today. And it's like just acknowledging it, but then being like, okay. And I'm not saying it gets like less scary. Like there's still always, there's like almost, we think that like in the future, we're like, that's going to be more painful. But where you're at and who you are at that point, I don't think it's more painful. It's just pain.
pain is pain.
It's pain is pain. You're like, it's not like you're like, ooh, I can only experience this pain. So when I'm a higher person here, I can't experience this pain.
No, I hate to break it to you. You're just going to experience a different kind of pain at every level. Like, sorry, you just are. We're human beings. Whether you're someone who, like me, I'm like, I don't have feelings. I'm good. Garrett calls me statue mode. He's like, he goes, Ani went to statue mode. And I'm like, yes, I fucking did. So
do I do statue mode?
No, but I can see when it's like shield up. I'm like, oh, Danielle's closed. I'm like, shit, she closed the door. She locked it up. You put the plexiglass
you're
up.
You're dead to me.
When that plexiglass goes up, you're like, bitch, I see you. But nope. And for me, it's the same. It's like, whoop, like shut down. Like I'm there, I'm listening. Oh, I hear everything, but you won't get a tear out of me.
You're worse than I am because like
monster.
I put my glass up, but you like put like a glass and like guns between, not guns, but you you literally are like, you're not only like shielded, but you're like armed and guarded, and you're like,
that's, you know what? When I hit,
you're like, what's the gremlin? No, what's the character?
I'm not
you're
Gollum.
You're Gollum. You're like Gollum behind a shield.
Look, let me tell you, but statue mode is one of the few times I've ever yelled at Garrett.
You know, it's because you're very cheery though. Like you're very like, hi, like so.
Thank you. I think I am too.
No, you are. And I thought, I don't take this personal. This is a compliment.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear this.
I thought that when you were like, hi, I thought it was fake when I first met you. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, oh, she's not.
I could see that.
But now I know you're actually a pretty like friendly, like fun person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I realize, not that it's fake, but when you go to statue mode, I'm like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Do you know what's so funny? When Warrior Women was a thing, the first time I met them, you've seen me before events where I'm like, it's event week! It's Christmas, motherfuckers! Like I'm amped. Like there is no calming me down. I'm bouncing around. Like it's me. It's like, I've never done coke, but I could imagine like that's what it's like. Just like jazzed and amped up all the time. And they saw me that way the night before. They'd never met me before. They didn't fucking like me. And then they didn't like me at all. And yeah, they told me later. And then the next morning we came in and it's event day and I am dead ass serious. Yeah. Like there's no more and this
because they thought that's how you were like all the time and they didn't see like the like jazzed up side. Oh
no, because they only saw my jazzed up side and they're like, this bitch is fake. She's way too happy. She's putting on a front. And I'm like, no, A, I love events. Like this is my jam.
Right.
But B, then when I showed up the next day and I was dead ass serious in full warrior clothes, I wasn't smiling, like not even to our own girls. They were like, who is this? I was like, it's event day. I'm not fucking around now. Like, we're here to do some shit. And they were like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you think I'm only happy?
Like, no.
We are here to change people's lives. I don't have time to be jumping around.
I realized that both sides are you. I just like in the beginning, I was like, I just was like, she's not really that happy. And I'm like, no, she is. She's pretty cheery. But back to our main
rules of engagement.
Rules of engagement, you guys. If you do not set up your rules of engagement inside of your business, whether it's with clients or within your employees, you can only be mad at yourself. So you have to be really clear with what are your rules of engagement. And for me, what I realize is like, it's kind of like when something bugs you, when somebody says something, you're like, it's fine, it's just you, it's just bugging you. But then I'm like, no, obviously that triggered me. So why did that trigger me? What do I need to set up? What kind of rules of engagement? Whether it's with a client where they, they're disrespectful, they're late, whatever, this and that, like you end up having to create your own set of rules. Like I had to create a very strict like cancellation policy at my salon because we get a lot of women that travel in, and I had a few clients that were like, it's the LA traffic. And I'm like, you're an hour late. Your appointment is 3 hours. You're an hour late. I'm like, and they're like, but I travel all the way here. And I was like,
we had someone travel 22 hours from Alaska. Lady.
No. And I was like, I love you. And I'm not trying to be rude. I appreciate that you travel in, but we have a lot of clients. We have full books. We want everyone to have the same experience. So if you know that your appointment's at 11 and you consistently hit traffic, you got to leave earlier. And it was just like a very upfront conversation. And I would say, hey, if you're past 20 minutes late, I have the ability to cancel you and reschedule you, or I offer them like skip the color and just do a tighten. But if I explain the rules of engagement and they know, then they're kind of like, okay, we've had clients show up and they come in like an hour late. They're like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry too, because I can only do a tighten. And they're like, I know. I'm like, cool.
As long as you know.
Yeah.
But also, you have to be clear that you have made it clear to them. Saying things to yourself in your head or putting it on your like mood board or whatever they call those dumb things. I hate them so much.
It's a vision board.
I hate vision boards. But like putting it on a vision board or a mood board or whatever it is, that doesn't work. And also, listen to how you speak, because I know some people, like one of our trainers, he's a very like a storyteller to the max and elaborates like a motherfucker. Like he's just
Carlos.
This isn't, yes, of course, Carlos. Who else would it be? Like this isn't just a podcast. It's like he just elaborates.
I feel like I'm watching a movie when I watch him.
Yes, and he's hilarious, and I love him so much. But I'm also like, but when you talk to your staff, are you being clear?
Oh, I could see him
or
being like,
are you embellishing? No, he's an embellishing motherfucker.
Really?
And that came to then be a problem with him and his manager. He's like, my manager didn't do this. And I'm like, but how clear were you? He's like, I told a story. I'm like, well, stories don't really work. It needs to be, I need you. Here's the task I need done. Here is some things I like. Here's how I need it done.
That's why.
And here's the day I want it done.
That's why I work really good with Crystal as the salon manager, because I am a storyteller.
And she's Danielle.
So
that's not
dry.
going to work.
She's so dry in the best way. She's dry in work way.
Crystal outside of work is hilarious.
Lots of things I can't unsee there, but Crystal inside of a work scenario is the driest MFer I've ever seen.
You've already said it 3 times. You know that, right?
I know.
That's why I held up 3 fingers to you earlier.
Okay. Anyways, so if you're not that person that can set up the rules of engagement, then oftentimes
figure out someone who can.
Find somebody, hire somebody for that position. The biggest mistake I made, one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career, is I would hire somebody who didn't actually fit the job. Like I would be like, I believe in you and I want you to come become this person because I believe in you. Why am I doing that? Why am I trying so hard? Why don't I just hire somebody who has salon experience, who has been a salon manager? Why don't I hire an IT guy who is an IT guy instead of asking Ani to code everything for me, right? I mean, there's a certain level I'm like, why am I making life so hard on myself? And so I feel like you have to find somebody to help you out in your journey, whether it's in business or in life, that complement the things that maybe like you're not so great at.
Well, and then also remember, because Danielle's right, Crystal is very dry, only at work. And it's hilarious because she'll just be like, that's not going to work for these 15 reasons. And I feel
she has like an eye, she just has this eye thing that when any of us see it, we're like,
man, when she has kids one day, we're going to be like, oh, that's
she does. She's like the person that doesn't have to say anything and she just like one eyebrow twitches and you're
that's
like,
my mom. Oh, if you got the eyebrow from my mom, you were in so much trouble. But anyway, with that being said, but also remember, like, if that's what you need from someone, you also can't get mad at them for it.
Right.
But
you have to respect it.
Yes, but we also know we can come to Danielle and be like, that doesn't work. Here's why it's not going to work. But we're also not going to come to her and be like, your idea's dumb and you're dumb. Like, hold up. Rules of engagement, there's a level of respect there that is never crossed, whether it's personal or professional. Why? Because we all actually like each other and love each other, and it's business. There's fucking respect.
And also, too, I would say now I'm at a point, too, where I'm like, okay, guys, I'm not just saying, like, can I have your feedback? Like, I genuinely need your feedback. Will I take everything you're saying? No. But do I need to hear some of your feedback? Yes. And then am I going to give you my opinion? And then it's kind of, you come to this weird conclusion with whatever it is where you're like, it's like an agreement where you're like, thank you for your feedback. Okay, now we came where somewhere in between, right? Even it's just having conversations.
Well, even Danielle and I were talking yesterday about creating a academy business only class for all of our salon owners. And I'm like, well, what about these 5 ideas? And she's like, well, I like idea 1, 3, and 4. But what if we take those ideas and then put it with my 2 ideas? And I'm like, that could work. But why don't we change idea number 5 to this? And we ended up with this like 15-step plan that we were like, this is amazing. We can totally roll this out by fall.
I feel like too, it's like in the movies, you know, when they have like a boardroom and there's like the main person, they're like, go, you pitch, you pitch, you pitch, you pitch, and they come up with an idea. Like, I feel like in a way that's how I've gotten with my staff. I'm kind of like, okay, here's what I think. Go, go, go. And like everybody, and then we like come up with kind of some master plan.
Man, my mind went somewhere totally else. I was thinking those crazy alien people who have like that conspiracy board with the strings.
No,
and
I'm thinking like somebody who runs like a magazine and they have somebody come pitch ideas for the magazine.
These are our different personalities coming through.
Gromlin or Gremlin or Gollum, whatever your name
Gollum.
is. Gollum. Damn it. You know what? This was a fun episode. It was like, I feel like it was like silly and serious.
I mean, I'm actually dead serious about rules of engagement,
Yes.
but also I'm also serious about not being Gollum. I've been serious this whole episode.
I've been Burnsy, Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns.
You know, it's so funny. I don't know. I think maybe I'm like hunchback from doing hair so many years and then like, I don't know. I don't think I look like Mr. Burns. Like a hot Mr. Burns.
You know what you look like? What is that? What's that movie? Have you ever seen Monsters, Inc.? That little alien that's like all hunched over.
And the blue furry animal?
No. What's the really gangly one that's all hunched over and does this with his hands?
I'm the giant ball with the long arms and long fingers.
I'm going to find one for you. He looks like a lizard.
Damn it. I'm feeling hot tonight. I'm even going out on a date night.
Not anymore, you're not. Sorry, Garrett. I'm just kidding. But guys, all jokes aside, really think about the rules of engagement that you have with your staff, with your clients, like whoever it is. And if there's something going sideways, take a look inward first, because if you haven't set the crystal clear rules of engagement, that's 100% on you, no one else.
It's true. Anytime that I've had that happen in my life, I have to ask myself, why did this happen? And I am always at fault. I'm like, okay, if you don't want to repeat this, I have to change the rules. I have to change the stories. You hear that a lot. What's your story? Change your story. Change your story. Change your rules of engagement. So we want to thank you guys so much for listening. Every week, every Tuesday, we have the Big Money Stylist Podcast come out. Download the podcast app. It just pops up. You can listen to it every week on your walking your dog, whatever you like to do, walking your kids. Do you walk your kids? Probably not walk your kids. Push your kids in a stroller, whatever you do. We are still planning our convention this year in November. It's BMS Con 4, which is the business market 5. It's 5. It's BMS Con 5, which is the business marketing and sales and the natural beauty rose tactics mixed in there with color and tons of cool stuff. Our artists have had amazing results, and we'd love to invite you guys to be one of the 350 that join us here in Dana Point, California. Stay tuned for details. Go to bigmoneystylist.com to enter your email on the wait list.
We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next week.